Tennessee baseball feels like they're still trying to get the puzzle pieces in the right spot. But after a close win over NKU last night, Tony Vitello and company believe that they've found some answers on defense.
Blame it on me for not getting here faster, but here we are. We know what it's going to look like when we take the field, and it's either going to be good enough or it's not.
Tony is partly referring to the hamstring injury that Gavin Keelan suffered earlier in the season, and then last night against NKU, it was yet another opportunity to get him back out in the mix and kind of get him different looks as well, such as moving from second base to shortstop, which he doesn't have a ton of reps in, especially this season, and it was maybe more so a last-minute change on Gavin Keelan's perspective because he got a text from Tony in the morning asking if he'd be okay with it, and he's like, yeah, I'm good with it. He was happy to comply, and after looking at the way the defense looked last night, especially later in the game, it certainly seems like it's a recipe that's leading to wins. And I mean, let's look at the 5th and 6th innings where he hit a double. Later, it was a hard hit out to center field, and I'm sure that self-talk is a little different going from being the second, third, or fourth batter to being the leadoff hitter, where you don't get to see any pitches prior to your first at bat. And for him, maybe that contributes, but it kind of really just goes back to his own preparation.
I think for me, it's more so just a preparation thing. It's kind of just like when you're on the road being away, you hit first. So I think it's just mentally preparing myself to get ready to do that right away rather than getting to see a pitch or something like that. I love it. I have no issue. Wherever he's going to put me, I'm going to try and do whatever I can to help us win.
Yeah, and it's that last part where he talks about doing whatever he needs to do to help the team win that certainly allowed him to find even greater success when you look at his contributions at shortstop, at second base. And it's part of the change that Tony Vitello and company seem pretty firm in keeping moving forward. And if we keep it in the outfield, with Gavin Keelan moving around, that also means Dean Curley had a little bit of change as well in the outfield, and he made some really tough, really solid plays. But beyond being able to make a routine out or even make a tough play like we mentioned, what I thought was really telling about this team was after the plays Dean Curley was able to make in the outfield, I turned my attention over to the dugout, and all the guys are taking their ball caps out off their, waving them above their head. And I think it's that type of camaraderie and how much the team looks to support each other and uplift each other. It's maybe a little easier to quiet the outside noise or to be able to flush the last play if it didn't go the way that you wanted to, because you have the guys in the dugout that are continuing to build you up. And I think that's a huge part of how Tennessee ends up maybe getting more wins moving forward, is being able to rely on each other.
The way everyone is, the way their character is, the way our makeup is, I'm not worried about us ever. We got a bunch of dudes who are bought in. No one gets freaked out or doubts anyone else. It's just everyone's bought in, and if you get punched in the mouth, so what? We'll keep going.
And of course, that might get a little more difficult when you go from a midweek opportunity to turning your attention back to SEC play. And at this point in the season, anyone in the conference can get you if you give them the chance. And that'll certainly be true when they welcome in the Auburn Tigers. They're a couple of games better than 500, but they do have one of the better fielding teams in the country. I think they're top 20 in the nation when it comes to their fielding. And I think that's where Tennessee can build off what they did against NKU. They had really positive at-bats for much of the game, maybe a couple ones that were wasted, but overall really positive, really worked at each of the pitchers that they faced. And maybe more telling than others is they had a number of hard hit outs against NKU last night. And I think even as Tony Vitello will allude to, that's really something positive that this team can build from, being able to maintain that maturity and composure at the plate.
Sometimes this offense can explode. It's capable of doing that, but when it doesn't, some guys think I got to do it all myself and be a hero and launch a ball, and next thing you know, you pile up like 6 or 7 at-bats that were kind of worthless. And tonight, as you mentioned, some hard hit outs, or I hate to say it, maybe again sounds like low standards, but even some of the strikeouts, you saw some things in there that were a positive. So the value of at-bats, they're all equally important, and if you can stack up a bunch of them that are quality or team orientated, then it'll pay off.
Which I think goes to show the maturity and confidence in this team that regardless of the change that the coaching staff makes, they maintain the same approach, such as Dean Curley being able to bounce back last night.
He's such a professional that he can handle all that stuff with ease. It doesn't matter on a daily basis, if you're in the lineup, not where you're playing. It's just we're going to show up every day, and it's about us and the Vols and what we're going to do to win.
Confidence can also go such a long way, and I think, as long as Tony has been here, none of his teams has ever lacked in that department. But maybe where the team had struggled to find earlier in the season, which they typically found later in the season, is that sense of composure and maturity. And I think this team has that. And we see it again in their plate approaches. We see it in how they look in the outfield, whether they make a tough play or a routine out or not. And I think it's being able to combine those two and have them work together that I truly think will be the underlying factor for this team with the season ending the way that they want it to.
They're a very confident group, but they're a little bit more even keel, a little more mature than some of the ones we've had in the past. So that's great, but you can't get complacent and just, it was a doubleheader or that guy was on today. You need to make adjustments to failures that you have or losses you have in the past. So that would be my answer. Unwavering confidence and make adjustments when they're needed.
Especially in the game against NKU where they were once trailing and then the game really stayed close until the final out and it easily could have gone the other way. But again, cheering each other on, lifting each other up, they were able to keep the focus and handle business.
We spent a lot of time together yesterday. Yesterday was an off day. We tried to do as much possible, get the team camaraderie, keeping us close together, uniting us, don't letting weekends like that to break us apart because we have a lot of games left and you got to stay ready to play.
Which that sentiment sounds awfully familiar, especially when you compare it to what Christian Moore said yesterday when we caught up with him before their series against the Smokies, is he was talking about how they all need to rely on each other. And even in games or weekends where it kind of falls apart, if Vitello and company puts you out there on the field, then that should be enough to quiet the noise.
See, I think it's a confidence thing. I think just knowing that whoever, it doesn't matter in any situation, who's in or not, that you wear the Vols uniform because you're good enough to play here. And I think just keeping that confidence with everybody is a really good thing.
And if you missed that conversation with Christian Moore, go back to the homepage. Link is also in this description as we do a brief catch up with the former Volunteer and second baseman, which I do think today he is trying to see the team. And I think the team is also trying to find a way that they can all get out to a Smokies and Trash Pandas game to catch Christian Moore and the rest of the team. But Tennessee baseball, they get a crack at it on Friday against Auburn, Lady Ball softball on Thursday, so certainly make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the conversations. I'll talk to you guys later.
It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on fourth down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.